So in Pakistan, do you think this digital content was posing any threat that
Definitely.
ultimately the government has to think to bring this amendment?
Whether it is the amendment made by the parliament, is it against the international law? Not at all. Whether the process which is made by the parliament, is it against the European Union conventions? Not at all. The issue is now at that the process has been identified in this amendment. In Pakistan, we are making the argument that we should strengthen our defamation laws. And defamation laws is enough to tackle these issues.
True.
If defamation law is enough to tackle the digital media areas, why the other countries, they are making their own digital media laws? The fake news definition, there is no issue at all. Is it against the constitution? Not at all. It is against the international law principles? Not at all. Problem with the Pakistan is that whenever we make a law, and while going to the implementation law, much water has gone under the bridge, and simultaneously the law has been outdated. If you talk about the PICA law was introduced in 2016 by the PMLN government. And interestingly, there was no clause or section which defined the fake news.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, there is an extraordinary development from Pakistan that Pakistani Parliament finally has passed Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act Amendment Bill 2025. Earlier it was adopted by National Assembly of Pakistan, but later on, despite reservations by the stakeholders, despite reservations by the working journalists, by the digital journalists, and by members of the opposition, Pakistani Senate has finally adopted this amendment. Now, this bill has been sent to the President of Pakistan for signing. On the other side, Pakistani journalists and their representative bodies like Federal Union of Journalists has announced countrywide protest against the adoption of this particular bill by the Senate of Pakistan. Why journalist community? Why digital right activists? Why citizen journalists? Why so many other people are against this? Whether in real terms this amendment will breach the freedom of speech, will breach the freedom of content which is available on social media. To discuss this and all other concerning features and clauses of this PICA Amendment Act, today we are fortunate to have with us senior most legal expert, legal analyst, Hafiz Ahsaan Ahmed Khokhar sahab. Very warm welcome to Program Insight. So if you look outside the parliament, the entire country, particularly the digital right activists, since with the digital media there is a huge community. Anchors, then journalists, we have also seen huge protest outside the parliament that journalists believe that their viewpoint was not heard and the legislative process was bulldozed and finally the amendment was adopted. Question to you is that is there any specific clause which will really breach the freedom of speech, which will really suppress the freedom of the digital media?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mateen, thank you so much for inviting. And today it's a very, very important legal and on the simultaneous, it's a constitutional subject. Article 19 and Article 18 and Article 19A, having given the power and granting of fundamental rights to every citizen of Pakistan.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of expression and right of information. So both are, you have a right as a fundamental rights. If some organization or some government institution is violating your rights, you can approach the court for taking your rights through constitutional jurisdiction. But Article 18 and Article 19 is subject to law and constitution. It is not unbridled fundamental rights that one side, the constitution grants a fundamental rights on both sides, freedom of expression and right of information. And simultaneously, it has imposed certain restrictions. You can't speak against the national security matters. You can't speak with the relations of your brotherly countries. You can't make the hate speech. You can't incite the people. And you can't say what is actually not in accordance with law. So there are the certain conditions, and there are so many judgments of the Supreme Court of Pakistan that Article 18 and Article 19 is subject to the condition imposed by law. Now, with the passage of time, then there is, the increase in the certain areas of media. First, we had a newspaper, then there is electronic media. Now we are entering into the digital media. Problem with the Pakistan is that whenever we make a law, and while going to the implementation law, much water has gone under the bridge, and simultaneously the law has been outdated. If you talk about the PICA law was introduced in 2016 by the PMLN government. And interestingly, there was no clause or section which defined the fake news. And this laws primarily dealt with the journal principles of the digital media. There was no independent agency. There was no independent regulatory framework which controlled the media the digital media platforms. There is no, the authority which can go to address the complaints. And finally, a long queue on the sides. If you go on the statistics on these sites, in the last 5 years, there is a report published by many newspapers. Around 6 lakh complaints have been filed with the FIA. After verifications, only 15.
In last how many years?
In last 5 years.
5 years.
In last 5 years, and on the inquiry stage, there was only a registration of FIR, and ultimately conviction the side is the 1,500 convictions. You can imagine on that particular side that how there is a certain loopholes in our law system and on the court side. Now, if we compare the digital media laws, Britannea, UK has made its own law. Singapore has made law. Australia, USA, Canada, every country of the European Union which believes on the freedom of expression and right of information, they have transformed their law. We talk about one thing, that defamation is enough. In those countries, there is a defamation law, and punishment on the defamation law is on a civil side. But while making these legislation on the digital media side, they made the criminal culpable of these offenses. If you go in the United States,
the punishments have been made more tougher.
In Pakistan, we are making the argument that we should strengthen our defamation laws. And defamation laws is enough to tackle these issues. If defamation law is enough to tackle the digital media areas, why the other countries, they are making their own digital media laws? But UK, USA, Canada, Australia, Singapore, and the other European countries which I believe and you believe that there are much freedom of expression and right of information available with those countries. Simultaneously, while addressing the issues of the digital media law, they have made the stringent laws. If you made a violation in the United States of America to a certain extent of their national security and towards the fake news, there is a 10 years punishment in the digital media laws in the United and vary from the state to state.
Targeting and affecting national security.
Targeting the affecting national security, and where is the punishment? In UK, there is a 3 years punishment, somewhere is a 7 years punishment, and there is $1,000 and $1,000 the fine simultaneously. And on stringent side, if you paste fake news or fake publication online, the operator within 24 hours, they have to remove the substance of their, the platforms.
So in Pakistan, do you think this digital content was posing any threat that
definitely
ultimately the government has to think to bring this amendment?
The first thing is that always the Pakistani parliament and the government side on the weaker side on to draft a law and to make the legislation. You're talking about the digital media laws, and still this amendment is passed by the parliament. There was no concept of the folk news. There was no, the authority. We have borrowed the services of the FIA in the digital media laws. We don't have the expertise.
Exactly.
Then there is a regular court system. Years and years take place. And if you go on that side, then there is the High Court and the Supreme Court. Now, in this law, certain things have been defined, and almost no one is denying what is the amendment say. If I analyze as a legal student that what has been, addressed in the new amendments, is it against the Constitution of Pakistan? No, it is against not the Constitution of Pakistan. Fake news or the process to handle this.
Everybody has agreed to tackle, and everybody agreed that fake news is destroying society.
Everyone is now the sufferer in Pakistan who, to some extent or more extent, contacts with the digital media. There is a fake news, there is a false acquisition level, there is a false post. You go on the civil court side, see, many, the divorces have taken place because of the media. There is a fake news, the person sits in Lahore, and the fake news about the UK is always there.
Exactly.
Come on, and everything.
One of the worst violence that took place in the United Kingdom.
So, to the extent of the broader side, whether it is the amendment made by the Parliament, is it against the international law? Not at all. Whether the process which is made by the Parliament, is it against the European Union conventions or like the other countries, contemporary world, like USA, UK, and the Canada or the Australia, which you are trying to make the examples of? Not at all. The issue is now at that the process has been identified in this amendment. First, you have defined what is the fake news. In every country, Mateen, the law starts from the word any person or the citizen. You can't distinguish that this is the immunity class. If whosoever would be, if he is a citizen of Pakistan, or if he comes to Pakistan or sits outside the Pakistan, violates the Pakistani laws, he is subject to the law. And every word of the PPC in Pakistan and in other law, the words start from the person, any persons who violates the law. So there is no distinction. Whenever you say that someone is targeted, this is the language of the law. The second point is who is responsible. The onus lies on that person who makes a false news.
Exactly.
If I am
who uploads a false content.
If I am fake news, false content, something like that, if some make a false allegation against me, that this is this story, the first thing is you have to prove it.
Corruption-related stories.
The investigative journalism much ahead from Pakistan to other journalist countries, but they are more responsible. They get the more information, accurate information, and when they publish such information, no one is denying, no one dare to deny on it, because they have the strong factual investigation processing. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, we just try to make a bubble, make a news, and then go away. Where is the actual stories? So on the first extent, the fake news definition, there is no issue at all. Is it against the Constitution? Not at all. It is against the international law principles? Not at all. Is it against something more than the countries which have defined the fake news, like the USA, UK, or Australia? Is it as it is a fake news is everywhere? Where is it? Number two, the social media operators, like the different YouTube, Facebook, Instagram,
TikToks.
You have to channel. You have to channel within your country. If they are not registered with your country, how you can take the action against them? So this is not the against of your law, country, or the international law. Third, there is a process. The process is here. There should be an independent investigating agency. The investigation agency will be established by the experts people, and then there is a regulatory authority like a PEMRA, that the independent regulatory authority like a PEMRA, digital rights protection and something like. And then there is a process of from the court to the tribunal. If you have a complaint, file a complaint over there. The law says it is, if it is a fake, the operators has to remove within the 24 hours. And then if you continues the investigation process, and after the investigation process, the case or the investigation will be submitted to the tribunal. Now the tribunal will decide after hearing both sides, being an independent, and we have so many tribunals.
And right to the High Court has been there is no right to the High Court after tribunal.
No, there are so many laws in Pakistan where there is the first stance, then there is a tribunal, and then there is Supreme Court. Even in the Competition Commission of Pakistan, even in the FST, there is a tribunal. The appeal go to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. If on the provincial services matter, there is a tribunal. Appeal go to the Supreme. The primary purpose is that to cut short the litigation process and to decide at the earliest to decide at the earliest the instant system whosoever would be responsible. So there is a tribunal process. No one deny you, I, and whosoever would be. He will say, if I am aggrieved by someone act, the law should take in field and matter should be decided instantly. Then there is appeal to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and the Supreme Court of Pakistan is the ultimate authority, and if you are aggrieved, then you can do the. So to the extent that from 2016 to 2025, there was a need to improve this legislation by the contemporary world, which the other world had decided, and they are acting upon, and they have implemented their laws. Now the issue is before in Pakistan, like stakeholders,
protesting journalists, they are raising their voice.
They are not against the law.
They are not against the law.
They are not
then
against
why
the
they
law.
are protesting?
Meaning thereby, they are saying that the law should be made. And everyone has the right to say the law should be made, but they are saying the process, while adopting the legislation, they should be consulted. And it is a fair right. If you are going to make a law and someone is coming on it that my voice should be listened, you must listen your voice. That might be you
whatever
have,
is their viewpoint.
might be you have, certain good suggestions. Might you have certain good proposals. You try to improve it. So in that area, the government has been on weak side. It is an open law. It's not a secret
They
law.
should have taken journalists.
They should have
digital
taken on.
rights
They should
into
have done.
confidence.
If, for the sake of argument, you call any journalist. The professional journalist who asked me, "Is it a fake news? Would you accept the fake news phenomena in Pakistan?" He will say, "Not at all." If you ask him that should the process be expedited, he will say yes. And if you will say that there should be an independent agency, investigating agency, they will say yes. Now there is two problems. One is they are not being consulted, and they should have been consulted in a much better way. And the second is the misuse of law. And to the extent the government should take steps while appointing on three areas. One is at the investigation side. Second is the investigating agency. The third stage is the regulatory. You are making a regulatory body for them. And fourth is the tribunal, because Supreme Court is independent.
So there are no chances of misuse of law against anyone.
The law, there is no chance of misuse of law to the extent if the law is applied equally. But the persons while appointing over there, if they try to and the people have a bad experience in Pakistan, like the FIA, that journalists were given the notices and they were called. Even the FIA did not have the jurisdiction, because if the PICA law does not define the fake news or the consequence of fake news, then how the FIA can take the cognizance? So to the extent that the journalists are right on that there should be a law, but the law should not be misused. But here I think say that if now the National Assembly has passed, the Senate has passed, and finally the President in Article 75 of the Constitution will give his assent, and that after that will become the act of the Parliament. Now the precise point would be for the government is to engage the people while appointing these agencies, officials, the tribunals, or the regulatory framework that the journalists will say that the independent people will be appointed, and they will not be influenced by anyone, and especially from the government sides. So if you make sure and you try to make certain good people, the professionals people in that area, so I think the apprehension on the other side would be on the misuse of law. They will be dispelled. Otherwise, hue and cry will be made on it, and they have a right to agitate.
You spoke in depth about this fake news. But who will decide that whether it is genuine news or the fake news? I'll give a brief context that nowadays political parties from various ministries, even from the government, sources-based news are released. And the moment journalists receive, they believe that this comes from a political party, and that party may have made that information or a piece of news against another political party. So there is a vague definition of fake news. So how to tackle with this? How to believe whether this information is fake or genuine? Hafiz?
Mateen, what is your professional duty? If someone gives you the information,
to cross-check, to double-check.
If someone gives you the information, you are under legal obligation on the law as well as on the professional ethics. First, you check, is it a right or is it a wrong? If you are not sure about it, then you should restrain yourself. Even Surah Al-Hujurat, the Quran Pak, there is an ayat कि अगर आपके पास कोई शख्स आए तो आपसे कोई बात कर ले,
आप उसकी तस्दीक कर
ले,
so कि अनजाने में नुकसान
हो जाए. तो ये the issue is that if the Holy Book says like this is the process to check the
Quran
fake news,
has given a clear concept of
the concept, and even today
back.
it is more important than that. The digital media is now a whole world. Just I'm coming on some social media platform and I'm starting some comments or some making a news on it. So I should be responsible. If I make a false news, false accusation, making the defamation, so I should be held responsible. And who will be held responsible? Who violates the law? There is no problem for such a person who are professional journalists, who are not making a false accusations, who are not making the fake newses, and who are not trying to make the hatred among the society from one side to another. You are not, imagining what is going on in Pakistan. Even we are talking about the first thing that is about the government. What is going on in Pakistan? In the families, in the social circles,
in political circles,
no one is safe.
Business circles.
If you start comment on, you may make an independent political opinion or the legal opinion, people will start bashing on you. So is it justified? Are your anchors coming on the media, they are safe? Are the people who are telling the story, are they safe? So there should be a check and balance. And that check and balance is a universal thing. The check and balance is available in the modern world, the developing countries, and like the Pakistan.
And Amnesty International says, I will quickly seek your comment, that digital space and digital freedom in Pakistan is in danger.
No, there is no issue at all. First of all, there should be no compromise on Article 18, 19 and 90A of the Constitution.
Clear in the beginning.
First thing there. The second thing there is the process. The process is at par with other countries because other countries made a process which is vigilant, sharp, active and on an instant conclusion side. But in Pakistan, there is a delay, and that delay, talk about it, the defamation law. How many people they have succeeded in defamation cases? How many people have succeeded in the high courts or in the Supreme Court?
A very low percentage.
You have to prove yourself that first he made a defamation and they said it. You point out what is the quantum of this defamation and you prove your, the status in the society. But now the law has been transformed. In now the media world, in the digital media, where you have the access of the technology, there is a more responsibility upon you. And there is more responsibility about you. You have to follow. If I as a citizen of Pakistan, go to the United Arab Emirates, there are certain laws.
Very strict laws in United Arab Emirates.
And if you go on can you imagine that you make a fake news in USA or UK or Australia and you will be survived? Not at all. The law will take on auction and the people will say, if you make something, I will bring you in the courts. But in Pakistan, because there is no mechanism.
So why it is so that instead of the victim, now the complainant could be anyone?
Anyone who is aggrieved to some extent, who is aggrieved by the victim, for the sake of argument. If some government officials, he is the victim. If a private citizen, he is a victim. So law doesn't, they declassify that the people who are sitting in the government, they are immune from the law, and the people who are outside. If some minister makes a fake news and makes a false allegation, he is equally held responsible. Like a person who is outside the government affairs, belonging to a political party, an ordinary citizen, and start bashing upon you and making a false allegation and defamation and the fake news. So the important thing would be to engage all the stakeholders in this particular process, that the law will not be misused.
How you will remove the apprehensions of the Pakistani journalists and digital journalists that it is against them? Speak specifically on this. Yes.
They have two things. One, they are saying if we should have been engaged in the process. And they have a right to say, if you are going to make a law, they should have a right to say. And now the thing has gone other side. We can ask them that if you make a better amendment, the parliament, in the way as the government can go to the parliament to make certain more amendments in the law. So this is not a blocking of the law that once we have made the amendment in 2025 and it is absolute, will be no amendment. If you have a better, proposals, we can go to the parliament to make certain legislation and they will be satisfied. And the second thing important that if you are going to make certain, tiers, the investigation side, the investigating officer side, the regulatory framework, and on the tribunal side, they should be engaged in that process. The honorable, the honest, the professional, and the apolitical people should be appointed there. That the message would be that whosoever would be who violates the law, he will be brought to justice. One, and the second, that unnecessarily harassment would not take place. That
online harassment.
There is a danger from even the political parties or the vloggers or the anchors or the journalists, that there might be, if you speak against the government, the law will be misused. But criticizing the government is no offense.
Last, quickly, I will say that the Western democracies, which claims to the champion of human rights, freedom of speech, and you said that they have also created...
they made this offense as a criminal offense.
Exactly. And they made it criminal offense, and dealing with the fake news, they created also laws. But whenever there is any legislation which is meant for any improvement in Pakistan, the Western world speaks against Pakistan. Why it is so? Why Pakistan has been taken for granted?
For the sake of argument.
For the sake of argument,
these amendments, the parliament has passed without, perusing the amendments, without making, is inconsistent with their constitution, it is a blank statement. That there should be a freedom of expression in Pakistan. There should be a freedom of information to the people or to the citizen of Pakistan, and they stop over there. If there is a problem with your law, identify the problem. And the second important thing would be that the law is no issue. Mateen, the implementation is the issue. The process the issue. So we as the country have a look on it, that while we are making the law and adopting the best practices of the world, it should not be misused. And if you control this area, and by appointing certain good professionals people, and with the passage of time, let's say, and we have certain organization in Pakistan where we believe it is functioning in accordance with law or apolitical or something like that. So why we not have such organization which particularly deal in the digital media world, by appointing the chairman of the organization, by appointing the DG for the investigation purpose, by appointing certain members as a regulatory framework, and by appointing good lawyers who have the experience in the digital media and who have a legal standing on that area. They are apolitical, nothing to have any political party, and then they decide the case, and actions speak louder than words.
Quickly, so it is feared that dissenting voices, those who speak differently, those who oppose government and the state, they are basically target. Is it so?
Not at all. The thing is that the government attitude always a big issue for everyone. The stubborn attitude. This is an issue. If tomorrow there is a protest all over Pakistan, you are saying that we have not closed the chapters. Parliament is there. The forums are available. If you think clause by clause there is a problem with the clause and there is a misuse of process. In some program, I said on it that the issue is the working journalist. The working journalist, the process while making the rules, if even you are not made the rules under the PICA law by specifying these areas, while making the rules, you made certain, the blocks in that area, the law should not be misused. So the chapter is not ended over here. The first thing that we must say to all journalists, all the media person there, this is not against you. The second is that they should engage with these people. The third, bring their proposal on the table, and if they are feasible, practicable, go to the parliament and pass on it. And then finally, while implementing the law, have a best people, have a professional people, have a apolitical people, and then go on. And with 3 to 5 months, you will see if the law will not be misused, no person in Pakistan will make any objection. And if there is a process of misuse in Pakistan, whatsoever the law would be good, ultimately the people
all
are
options and forums are available. And as Hafiz Ahsaan Ahmed Khokhar has said, that this is not the end of the story. All forums, all options, even after adoption of this bill by the Senate of Pakistan, And even if it is signed by the president,
even I can provide my services to all the journalist community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That this is not the end of the story. All options, all things are there, and it is not against them. As
Ultimately, the forum is the parliament, and go on the due and the apolitical process of the implementations.
And till our next program, goodbye and Allah Hafiz from studios. I hope on this very, very extraordinary, important legal and constitutional issue, this would definitely, after watching this program, this will remove your apprehensions, your fears about the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Amendment Act 2025. Allah Hafiz.